birds sing, I think of you. When I see the sunlight, I dream of you. I live with you, I'll die with you. Baby, can't you feel my pain? I love you more and more each day, each day. Ooh, each day. Ooh, you are the people in this world. You fill me up with joy. You make me wanna smile. Come on, take my hand and walk with me for a while, for a while. Ooh, for a while. Ooh. Does all this fighting come and makes my heart ache, makes my hands go numb? Hey world, have you heard the birds sing our song for love? Ooh, for love. Ooh. Just take this walk with me and see the beauty of the stars and sea. This land was set for you and me. I live with you, I'll die with you. Baby, can't you feel my pain? I love you more and more each day, each day. Hear the birds sing, I think of you. When I feel the sunlight, I dream of you. Hey world, have you heard the birds sing our song for love, for love, for love.
One thing I've learned, if you don't hold their feet to the fire, everybody gets burned.
Hold on. Before you start waving around that freedom of speech thing, when you're in a crowded movie theater and you scream fire, you better be able to smell smoke. You come on this radio show and you start saying incandescent things like that, you better have more behind you, pal, than just your thumb. I've been listening to talk radio for years, and one thing I just can't stand is when the host has to, push his way on the people, beat the callers into his way of thinking, extending his ego. Or when the callers call in and say something so outrageous and the host lets it go unchallenged. The sign you're on the road to truth is the lack of contradiction. You want to find truth, you just don't simply believe somebody because of their authority or their degree, or you listen to what they say, you test it against reality, and you hold their feet to the fire.
All right, we're back. Not live today. I'm actually recording this earlier in the day. It has not been a good weekend. I ask for your prayers. A lot of battles going on, and I'm going to get to the spiritual aspects in a bit. But I did wanted to say a few things. I'm going to have to get myself prepared for night and day. And I don't want to say stuff much because it's almost like the dark side can't really hear your thoughts, per se. It's more your verbalization. And when I talk about stuff, it's almost like, oh, good, it's working, or whatever. So I don't like to go into it. But I then, to you, the listener, I do have some kind of obligation to, you do show up here for the show, and then when it's not there, it's, I feel like I say, so there's some stuff going on. It's a lot of, and I'm going to get into the general area we're into as a world, which, to which I am a part. But I want to open up with just a couple of things about what's going on. There is, and I'm going to, in the file that goes along with this, I'm going to put a lot of links in it. And those things should be checked at. There is this impeachment that's coming up. Even though people seem to be laughing it off, it's a very serious thing. And it's been revealed they're going to have a whole group of psychiatrists talking about Trump's fitness for serving. Now, in order to use the 25th Amendment, there's a lot of rules that go along with it. As you notice, there's no rules being used in the impeachment stuff. So what I'm going to say is that they're going to bring all this stuff out, since the initial whistleblower now has served as purpose to have this meeting, this impeachment inquiry. The whistleblower is no longer relevant. In fact, it's probably a liability to them. But they're going to bring out all these psychiatrists, and I got the links below to talk about it. Even Steve Pachinik addressed this issue. They're going to come out and say a bunch of things about him. So what will happen is, what you have to understand is, and this is actually a metaphor for the whole spiritual battle that's on now, is that they don't need to have legality in politics in the impeachment, even though it was meant to, even though it was assumed that the president did something illegal to the level of high crimes and misdemeanors. It doesn't need that. That's the spirit behind it. But in reality, all it needs is X amount of votes in the House and in the Senate. That's all it needs. It doesn't need a real reason. And I can't speak for the Senate. Had never got to really an impeachment trial before. When Clinton was impeached, it was not taken up by the Senate. But when that's when you have the head of the Supreme Court officiates it and so on. So there's some legality in the Senate at that point. But the point here in this is they're going to have him become leak out into the public what they want. They're going to keep what they don't want out. They're going to limit the Republicans for what they can come up with, claiming it's going to be a distraction. And they're going to do all these things and put together a poison pen letter for impeachment, which in its surface, the people and the Democrats will vote for it. He will be impeached. It'll go to the Senate. And Mitch McConnell's already made some talk about that they would look into it, give it a minimum of this, 6 weeks to look into it, and all this stuff. But don't rule off, et tu, Brute, the Senate stabbing Trump in the back, like the play may have prophesized, only necessarily without blood. But this is another example of what we're in here. We're in a battle in the earth right now. I have quoted on Facebook. I will put these links up. But there is a I gotta find it now. I'm going to be going past a lot of the news stuff because you can read it, and there's so many other people doing it, and it's just, I don't know, it's not worth me time to do it. A lot of people agree or disagree with what I'm saying, and there are many people who are covering what I would say. So I'm not going to go, at least today, I'm not going to go a lot into the news stuff, but the idea of it. I wrote a response to somebody, which I ended up posting as a general. And I'm going to skip down and say, just like several other cultures, many of the people within the culture are themselves harmless, but the leaders and those using the culture are malignant other cultures around them, malignant to other. Now, this is where I should have started right here. They are one of many groups are being played and used for these globalist purposes. There's no one group. It's not the Muslims, the Jews, the Masons, even the globalists themselves. The real culprit is the evil force inspiring, manipulating, and corrupting them. That is the point to look at here. People talk about the Democrats wanting power, and they want to, yeah, that's true, but this is the real culprit, is this evil force inspiring, manipulating, and corrupting them. It finds and cultivates the weaknesses and talents for each group, creating their place in the machinery that is being made by this evil force, whose sole purpose is to destroy the whole by the way of or by the use of the parts. So all of us are being groomed and sit into our particular roles in this machinery whose goal is a mass suicide. It is a cancer that destroys the body by the organs within the body. This evil power takes joy, if you can call it that, by orchestrating a mass suicide of sorts, and that evil force, who has worked hard over the years to program the masses, it doesn't exist. This is what is moving. What's behind the impeachment? This evil force. What's behind the world domination? What's behind the globalists? What's behind totalitarianism? What's behind decadence? What's behind trans life and all this stuff? The evil force. And I put a quote down, and the great dragon was thrown down, the serpent. Now notice, there's a bunch of names here because it's talking about this evil force which has been called many things over the years. And that's why when you name a force, when you name one of the lackeys underneath it, it's part of the program to not be seen who it is for itself. And the great dragon was thrown down, the serpent of old, who is called the devil and Satan, and deceives the whole world. That's right there is one line. That is behind everything. That's behind impeachment. That's behind the stuff going on the border, the MS-13, the ISIS, the deep state, the neocons wanting to sell weapons to end up killing children, abortion, totalitarianism in China, everywhere. This is all behind it. The great dragon was thrown down onto earth. The serpent of old, who is called the devil and Satan, who deceives the whole world. He was thrown down to the earth, and his angels were thrown down with him. Woe to the earth and the sea, because the devil has come down to you, having great wrath, knowing that he has only a short time. And my last line in this post is, we must all take care to see how we are being played by this evil force in these times. This evil force is finite, but very, very high up on intelligence and in the spiritual realm, even though negative. And it can see our weak points, it can see our strengths, and it can work us into a plan. Now, notice it says the devil and his angels are thrown down and woe into the earth. So there's a hierarchy working. There's a limit to what they can do, but now that they're thrown down on earth, and at some point this happened, I'm not going to go into the whole Bible study behind it. I just think that it's kind of apparent with the things that are going on in the world that this is, we're talking about, it's here. Okay, so whether they want to call them the reptilians, it doesn't matter because it all goes down to this force. Now, it is trying to bring the West down and not to be some kind of a patriot ego based thing. The Western civilization seems to be the last bastion. It means that the Asian culture is already under control. The Euro-Asian and the African and the South American, these are all mop-up programs in terms of globalism, allowing the time for this serpent of old to take control. And you know, knowing the time is short also tells you that he's not like, oh, okay, I can win this. So it's like scorched earth. And like I've said, is when if the deep state and the extreme left was ever actually rooted out, they would scorch the earth on their way out. There's no losing on this. They're going to lose. Everyone loses. So this is the big scorched earth thing going on. And so if you'll notice around you, everyone's going crazy. All the weaknesses are being leaned on and played. And I'm feeling my own, which is why I have trouble here. They're all being leaned on and played. And so it's like if you have some kind of a sin, and I'm talking in terms in more of a definition than like a preacher here. It's going to be leaned on and manipulated and used. And if you're already in the system, if you've already taken the candy, if you will, from the devil, and you have been rewarded with some type of popularity or wealth or whatever, it's time for the marker. That's why you're seeing people like Robert De Niro going nuts on TV. He's been called. Now, whether it's spiritually or if it's been literally, they've told him they're going to release the things on him if he doesn't go out and do this. You know, either or both. But and I'm talking in principles here, so how it actually comes out is kind of irrelevant because the bottom line is the same thing, whatever the reason is. So you're seeing people who are now making a stand and making a decision on whose side it's going to be. Again, Trump is not the Saint Trump coming down on the white horse. He is a tool. He's a sword that's being used, a threshing fork that's being used across the earth to trigger people into being the real people, to trigger the choice of you're going to be in choice of reason and Constitution on the teachings of Jesus or whatever, or are you going to be on the other side? This is what's happening right now. Trump, if he can get credit for anything, is that he has triggered the left and whoever else you want to call them into playing, unveiling themselves. This is the revelation, if you will, in the literal sense, the unveiling. So we have to watch. We can be triggered and use our own problems. We're all sinners. Nobody should argue with that. We all have our problems. And that is going to be leaned on. Now, the good part, I guess, from a God's perspective, is that will be a way to clean and cleanse, or will go down in it. It's kind of like a sink or swim here. There's not an option to miss it. You can't be on the no side. You have to be on the side, and it's going to get hotter and more pressure and more things are going to happen in order to make people make a choice. This is the threshing floor. Are you going to be fruit or thorns? And this is what's happening at this point. And people will be making decisions. They've already done it, and in the near future will be making decisions which will set that course. And that happens in the personal lives of individuals. It happens in groups, neighborhoods, companies, municipalities, states, and countries, as well as, say, religious organizations, any type of group like that. All are going to be making a choice. Are they going to come out on the dark side, the worldly side, the globalist side, the satanic side, or are they going to stay on the Lord's side? And it will become very problematic for both choices. The difference is with choosing God and following the Lord, whatever happens to you, you're coming out of this in robes of white, if you will, as opposed to going down into it. And I'm not going to get into afterlives and what happens. It's irrelevant. We're talking about right now. So, it's not irrelevant. It's a distraction to get into details at this point. Avoiding distraction is very important. Don't get pulled into emotional or irrational situations. Avoid them. Don't partake in them, because it will be used to either help and do the other person or you, for that matter. And this is another reason why I don't like the QAnons and all this stuff, because according to them, everything's be fine. We just sit down and let it all just fall into place. So what happens when it doesn't fall into place? And hopefully it does work out, but personally, you might say I'm the guy, half-empty guy, talking with a new friend, Bob in Jersey. You got to look at the glass half full. And I understand that, and you do have to look at the positives along the way. But if you're driving a car, you want to make sure you find out where the road goes off the cliff. You just can't drive the car going, you know what, I'm not going to look down the road. It'll be okay. Now, whatever happens, okay can come through it, but I'd like to, and I don't see okay. Now, my only hope in this situation is Trump happens to be picked the moral high ground, even, in spite of his tweets or what have you. And because of that, and because of how he's getting nailed for doing the right thing, there is a blessing from God in it. But it's like we're all going to die someday, right? So God doesn't come to you and say, hey, you're not going to die. No, you're spiritually not going to die. You will pass from a mortal life into eternal life, and not having been one who done it, but those who I have known, including in my family, who have died on the table, there's no, it is a continuation. So, I can understand that whole point, but there is going to be a death. And that goes for this planet. That goes for everything. There's going to be a point of failing because, by definition, the material world fails. It all degenerates. It's part of the plan. Anyway, so what I'm going to be doing, I've been wanting to do this for a while, and I don't know why I haven't, is right now, to me, the only real important thing, keep your eye on what's going on in the world politics and all this stuff, but the most important thing right now is to, in these times of incredible, this is tribulation times we're in. The pre-trib rapture people won't agree because they know they're going to get taken away before it happens. I happen to don't agree with that. And so if it is true and I am taken away, great, no problem. Just like with Q, I got no problem with If Q's correct, then everything's fixed. I got no problem if Jesus comes and takes us away. That's great. You know, be ready in case that's a misunderstanding. And that's how I'm looking at it. And right now, we have to be ultra focused on the teachings, on Jesus' teachings about living and being alive in a Christian. And I'm not talking about church. This has got no church. It's got nothing to do with the Christianity that's on the planet, which is really Pauline, created by Paul, as opposed to Jesus. Again, I don't run into that now. It's another whole ball of wax. But these are the things that are happening out there that have to be dealt with. And what I want to do is, a long time ago, in the 90s, when I was in a regular Baptist church, which is a fundamentalist church, not maybe as, you know, if I can use the term crazy as some, it was actually a more reasonable version of fundamentalism, but no, fundamentalism nonetheless. And I taught adult Sunday school, and I did not want to use a book written by someone else and just follow along. I wanted to make my own, being the, I guess, bold yet naive person that I am. And the pastor went along, and I wrote these down. Now, I do have it. I do have this. It is in a fundamentalist-based presentation. Many things in there are true as it stands, and I'm going to be using that as a guide. And I want to go through the greatest teaching that's found in the Bible. And in fact, I would say that this is what you need. This particular group of Jesus' teachings, known as the Sermon on the Mount, if nothing else, that will get you through. And there's many other things that'll help, but I'm saying this is the most important thing. And I have studied it, and I have gone through it, and I've gone through my life a lot of changes and pressures and breakdown, coming back. I mean, it's been a journey. But because of all of that, I have opened up and understood things better than I ever have. Now, maybe this is one of the reasons why I'm being pressured a lot to stop me from doing this. Not like I'm going to open my mouth and and the sky is going to open and go, oh, here comes James. No, I'm just some guy, all right? But I've spent a lot of time thinking about these things in earnest, wanting to know the truth, loving God, accepting Jesus and Jesus' teachings as a way of life, that I think that I can at least give in these times some type of something people can do. Now, it's not even me, it's the words. All I'm doing is talking about the words in a modern context while keeping it conservative to what it was meant, and not reading into things or reading out of things, which has been done all over the place for thousands of years. And I think that this might actually help people. I don't know. It helped me. Let's put it that way. And I'm sharing what I found and what I've learned and what it says. And that keeps me going, regardless of what's happening. Being somewhat of a empath, I've been told, and I guess so, because I can't watch violent movies or nothing like that because it upsets me. I pick up the energy. So living around in these times is not going to be a picnic. But again, I basically just jump in the arms of God. And Jesus taught us to talk to the Father, or pray to the Father, go to the Father, and that's what I do. And I will be sharing what I have learned about these things. The Beatitudes, which is the first part of it, is about the greatest thing ever written. And it fully tells you what a godly life is. And people who have this in their heart and live it genuinely, those are the real Christians, if you will, following Jesus Christ's teachings. And that is what I think is important. It's not important about story of Christmas. None of that stuff's important. People they've come up with a legal thing because Jesus was born, it was conceived by God. It has all this stuff. To me, I'm not saying no. I'm not degrading it. I'm saying like if I have one innate ability, and my buddy of mine years ago brought it up to me, is I have some kind of a focusing ability to cut through all the extraneous stuff. I'm not criticizing it, but getting to the meat and the crux and the problem to be dealt with, or the thing to be learned from. And when I focus in on that stuff, I get answers. I'm going to give God the glory in that, both in creating, healing, and guiding me. But nonetheless, when I do talk about these things, it's a sober, and it has gravity. I'm reminded when Jesus was talked, they were amazed that he talked with authority. That was not meaning authority because they said, hey, this guy's a man of God. He's got authority. He's like looking at it, he's got a badge that said, listen to me on it, or a gun, or a wreath. It's by way of the depth of the truth and the information that was brought out so soberly, so seriously and directly that it just fell on them like a ton of bricks. That's the authority of it, is the authority of being of truth. That's the authority. And that's what I've sought for all these years. And I don't know, you might say I've wasted it. Maybe it's a way of keeping the truck in neutral so you don't actually go anywhere, waiting for the time when you really have to. But I've done all this stuff with Planet X. Excuse me. I don't know, you name it. All the Art Bell stuff I went through with these things with the same kind of gravity and found stuff. And I've done this for myself with Bible and whatnot. So I want to make sure that I share these things. And it could be my swan song, before YouTube goes, or before I go. I don't know. But I want to be able to get these things out because there is nothing more important right now than the teachings of Jesus. Not even the prophecy of what's to come, because Jesus knew Jesus did not. Jesus said, no one knows the time, the day or time, not even the Son, just the Father, because that no one knows when all of these variables that have been all come and get lined up and happen. There's a lot of close calls that have happened over the years. Kinda didn't. I mean, the story of Jonah is an example where the people in Nineveh were sinning, and God was going to do a judgment, but he sent Noah, and Noah goes, I'm not going to go. You're just going to, they're going to repent. You're going to forgive them. I'm going to waste my time going there. And it's what had happened. But if God didn't send Jonah, and they did not repent, judgment would have came. And in my case, I'm referring to the planet collapsing because of the globalist Satanry, which has never happened before. There's been groups around the world here and there. This is what they're looking for. So I think there's nothing more important, and I'm making that choice now. I'm talking now because I have to go later on for my own personal self and get ready to face the day and do things. I'm going to be going into a lot of prayer and meditation personally, because there's a lot of things happening around me that's warning. And I need to get my game face on, my game spirit, my love God, all this stuff on, and wear it, because you can't be cavalier at these times. There's going to be events coming in every single one of your lives, if they're not already, and not have been. That's going to test your God love, your God understanding, your Christianity principles, how you followed Christ. It's going to be testing it to the extreme. Again, the pre-trib rapture people will disagree with this because they're going to be spared from that time of testing. I do think from my studies that God will shorten the days, lest no flesh be alive. So the trajectory of what's coming forward won't get to its total conclusion, because it'll get to a critical forwardness that will trigger the divine intervention. But I'm telling you, it's not going to be a good thing. It'll be a good thing interventional-wise. But I think the pre-trib rapture, I think the QAnon people are doing a disservice by having people lay down their preparations because, it's going to be fine. It's not. I don't think that's the case. It has never been the case. Now, if it is the case, fine. Then I would be prepared for nothing. It's better to be prepared for nothing than not prepared for everything. And so that is why I want to get off of the topics of the day. It's all kind of a distraction. I mean, it's in one way, it's letting you know this is serious. This is unprecedented. The people, the leadership and stuff they're saying, the violence they're talking about. And they're saying Trump is telling people to go out and beat up people. Never once has he said this. Never once has he possibly alluded to it. And yet Whoopi Goldberg is talking about Trump advocating beating up people, which is absolutely, completely upside down. But see, this is the whole point of Satan. Satan laughs. He wants to have people say up is down and down is up. That's the enjoyment of the perversion and destruction of mankind. I don't get why he's so pissed about it. There's theories. It doesn't matter. But he wants to see mankind destroyed from within and of itself. Not a meteor hit it, not an alien invasion, not even a devil's angel invasion. The goal is to get human beings to kill themselves, to imprison themselves, to abuse themselves, to change themselves, go from man to woman, woman to man. It's the goal to completely pervert humankind. And wants to see it and watch it. When talk about Rome burning and Nero's fiddling, there was a precursor. It's serious times. We're going to be making decisions. We're going to be shocking ourselves with the gravity of the decisions we need to make. And if you have that connection to God, God will walk you through the fire. Lo, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thine art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. And that is the part that keeps me going through this. And the thing about it, too, is there's many people who are way worse than me. So it's almost embarrassing. But the thing is everyone has their own limits, their own problems, their own unique situations, so that the person who would appear to have it all, and you would think, oh, that's nothing. That's nothing. Well, it's all different. It's different for different people. And that's what's beauty about this, is that no matter how bad it is, there's been the people of the saints of old have been burned alive and sang songs. It's been written. Now the intercom went off, and I got distracted, which is, it's probably part of the deal. Is that it doesn't want any kind of sober reflection on the teachings of Jesus, which are the biggest and most important things there are. So I'll say a couple other things. One of the things that I look at when I study what's being talked about is that when it was said, it meant something at that time specifically. Words do have meanings. They're locked in a time and a place and a culture. However, there is a way to get the principle from that and apply it, at all times. And that's how I look at it. find out what they talked about, what the literal meanings are, what were the cultural significance. Was there any kind of sayings, or what's the word? I'm lost for the word now. Like slang terms that were there to understand what that means and not misunderstand it. Find out what the principle being taught is, and now apply it forward in any space and time, any culture, at any time. That's how it works. And so this is how I look at it. That's why I go back, look at the Greek and Hebrew on certain keywords to find out, because whenever you translate something, its decisions are made. It's not no one's fault. That's the way it is. Because you can't have English being a perfect across-the-board translation for all Greek and Hebrew. There's going to be certain aspects about it that are going to be hard to explain in one word. So, and it's not going to be a dry Bible study. It's going to be talking about. It's like listening to someone talk, and then talking about what they said. It's very interesting, and it's amazing to me. And I will dig up my old work to use as a guide on it and do it. And if somebody listening is going like, well, I'm not interested, that's okay. Maybe you don't need this. But I would just consider, whatever you do, that in these times we're at, the answer to everything is going to be how you lived about it, how you acted, your actions within your minds, not trying to justify yourself, not trying to, well, it was legal, it was okay, or anything like that. You got to think about the divine way of looking at things. And I guess, basically this would be like graduation day, and if you haven't done your homework throughout your schooling, it's going to be difficult. And they're not going to move the graduation day out just for you. And if you would have done what you're supposed to do, you would have been fine. And I think that applies here with us, with humanity. The greatness about God is because of the situation we're in, with the manipulation and lying being at all-time highs, with false science, false news, false spirituality, false everything. That the deception will allow God to step in, and he's running with God's own rules. I mean, he can do anything he wants, but it seems like when there's deception, God can go in and expose the deception and light up the truth. So keep your eyes open and look around, because that's a lot of that's happening. One of the problems I have on Facebook feeds, people see something, they like it, they've passed it along, don't check in and see if it's real, and that's you got to be very sober about it in this time. I think that I would do at this time is, when I talk about, I'm going to put a bunch of news items in there, and the point of the news is showing how this is building into a grand crescendo. People are talking about a civil war. This is beyond this. This is going to be huge. But perhaps it will be circumvented. Perhaps this is another close call to the end, and there will be time and expanded for it. Because the end could come, but because people stood up and did the right thing, it made the end come later. I mean, this is how I look at how things are, which is why we've had, back when Jesus left, people were waiting for him to come, like he was going to come back next week. Is he back yet? And here it is 2,000 years. And many people have come and calculated and figured out when he was coming, and he didn't. And who knows how we really know he's coming? We have an example given. And that's right. That's the next thing I want to say. This is important, so I may be saying it over and over again in a shorter version, but you're dealing with things that are outside of our space-time continuum. When you go into the spiritual realm, heaven, let's say, we cannot conceive it. It's worse than asking an ant to talk about like mathematics, right? Or, geography. This is like if you're looking at a two-dimensional dot person on the ground and trying to explain to them about mountains. It's not an insult. I mean, it's actually wonderful that there's stuff that are so far beyond us and amazing to us. Then when we go there, when we get up to that level of consciousness to be able to perceive it, this is where a lot of people will be joyed and also saddened because they're going to miss chances at certain levels and going into this kind of stuff because of some of the things they've done here. That they have to get that energy level right or what have you. So things that are over there, if you can't translate, say, like Greek and Hebrew into English, like one word and perfect, how are you going to translate something that's out of space-time continuum where there's no time, where there is multiple things happening at once because there is no time? I mean, I can't even explain it because I can't explain it. So how are you going to be able to explain this stuff in our area? And this is the problem when you deal with things from God in heaven coming into space-time. They come through Jesus into space-time. Jesus shares them, and other prophets share this, and they have to put it into a metaphor, into an example, into a real-world example, but it has a deeper meaning, a principle that goes onward and is used elsewhere. When you come from out there into here, you can be here. It could be 100 years ago. It could be 100 years to the future. I mean, this is all our limitational constructs. So that when God talks about stuff, you can't take it like, no, the heaven's going to be streets of jewels and gold. Now, could it be? It could be. Most likely, it's trying to think of the most wonderful things that poor people think of as being fabulous and pretty and jewels and even rich people like that stuff. So they're trying to come up with what can we say in space-time continuum language in zero AD or whatever, in this time frame, in this culture. What could we say that would give the impression as weakened, as lower, as less, less than accurate, precise, but still accurate in that, in our context, wow, that's amazing. So what's heaven? It's amazing. What are the streets? I don't know. It's just amazing, though. Do they even need streets? I don't know. I don't know anything about it, but I know it's amazing. I know it's wonderful. And over time, people have tried to put it in words. And the words, of course, get locked in space-time and become old-fashioned. And then you go like, oh, these people used to believe, we don't believe in heaven. They thought heavens had streets of gold. How ridiculous is that? This is why you have to understand when the words are written in the Bible, they're true, they're accurate, but they're limited because our language is limited, our understanding is limited, our consciousness, our intelligence are all limited compared to their. So when it talks about things, you need God to refreshen it in your culture, in your time frame, to be accurate, but more applicable so it doesn't become archaic, doesn't become old-fashioned. Well, back then, that's what they did. No, it all works now forever. The same, it's great. So this is the stuff I'm going to be doing in this, is that I'm going to be touch base with other aspects, both in the Bible, outside the Bible, that will corroborate how I'm refreshing these things to be more directly applicable to our space and time. I guess that's how it is. And I hope everyone listened to all of this to this point, because this last part is pretty important. And so that's what I'll be doing. And I have to just walk away from this other stuff, because it's a huge emotional drain. And remember, I'm empathetic in a way. I'm seeing this stuff. Oh, man, look at all this stuff happening. All these people, this is wrong. This is so wrong. They're lying. They're lying. They're unbelievably lying. They're lying right to you. The mainstream media is lying with them. It's in plain sight that it's a lie, but no one's looking at it. They're listening to them. And we are doing our own version of listening to someone else. We need to all understand ourselves what's going on. And I'm not going to be telling you what to think like someone else. You know, I'm just not another one to listen to. What I'm going to try to do is explain how it is in there. And when you read this stuff, when you read this stuff, you pray to God, open my eyes. I want to understand this stuff. I want it to feel to, you get these, and I've been doing this for a while. So it's like someone who's, I don't know, a good bike rider or something can get on a bike. And even me, I got problems. So it's not like I got all the answers. I went for years looking for someone who had the answers, and then I realized no one has all the answers. But a lot of people have some. And so that's what I've been doing. I've been with my little Easter egg basket, picking up little Easter eggs, little Easter eggs with truth, and I go and I rearrange them and try to see the picture that comes from them, to learn from it. And this is what I've been doing now for years. I got off track. Maybe not, but, Planet X and whatnot. And there are people out there who just don't want to know that there's not a Nibiru or a Planet X. They just know it's there and they don't want to know about it. Well, the same applies in what Jesus taught. They don't want to go there. They think this is going to be too hard if I follow what Jesus did. I can't do things I want to do. I don't think that's true. Anyway, I have to stop because I have to prepare this and I have to get the ball rolling here. But I wanted to do this rather just blow off another week. I wanted to get this out of there. And now I'm putting in stone, so now we're going to start doing this. And there you go. Well, God bless you all, and I'll see you next time.
Oh, my old friend, the one who walked before, the one who walked again, the ancient one of old, with wisdom for the new. Revive our inner sight, retell your timeless truths. Oh, ancient one. Hey!
Feet to Fire is a production of IPS Media Works on the OnSync Radio network of stations.